Hello, this is State Representative Dan Flynn. I represent House District 2, which is Hunt, Van Zandt, and Hopkins County. Today we're going to have an opportunity to visit with one of my heroes in life and a guy that I have the utmost confidence in, and he's my commanding general. And that is Adjutant General, Major General John F. Nichols. It's a pleasure and an honor to have you here today, sir. I have a long resume that I could discuss with all the people that are looking in on us today, but it would take too long. It would take up the whole interview for me just to list your credentials. Your responsibility as you're head of the Texas Military Forces of Texas. A lot of people don't know what that means, and I thought, well, why don't you just kind of explain to us exactly what being the Adjutant General of the state of Texas for Texas Military Forces, what does that entail?
Yes, sir. Gladly. You know, we have two missions for the Texas Military Forces. One is to support the President in time of war, and the other one is to support the Governor always. It's made up of the Air National Guard, the Army National Guard, the Texas State Guard, and then the Texas Military Department. About 24,000 people, all told. All walks of life, and we have varied missions. You mentioned going to war. We currently have about 700 soldiers deployed in Afghanistan. We also have folks on the border of Texas. We have people preparing to go on more missions in Afghanistan, and we're standing by for the governor and the lieutenant governor, state leadership to tell us whether or not we're going to continue on the border.
You know, I think a lot of people don't realize what a significant role Texas has played in the Gulf Wars. Mm-hmm. And this is kind of where everybody comes before they're deployed. Plus, our Texas National Guard has had a very major role in the Gulf Wars. Could you explain a little bit about that to us?
Yes, sir. The mobilization locations at both Fort Bliss and Fort Hood are where most of the National Guard and many of the active duty come in to mobilize before they go to war, including the Texas National Guard, especially the Army National Guard. We've deployed about 29,000 soldiers from the Army National Guard, and that's from a force that's only 18,000 strong.
Wow.
So since 2003, we've been fully involved. We were even in Bosnia in 2001 and 2. So we've been everywhere, and what we like to say is we do all things at all times in all places.
Well, you flew one of the major combat missions for the Air Force when we first started into the Gulf War, isn't that correct?
Yes, sir. I was in the first Gulf War.
That's exactly right.
We crossed the line on the very first day, January 17th, and kept flying throughout the war.
Well, we feel very honored. You've been serving as Adjutant General for Texas since 2011, and before that you were the Assistant Adjutant General, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And I think a lot of people don't really understand that you have a dual role. You mentioned that you serve at the pleasure of the governor of the state of Texas, but also you still have a military commission and you work with orders from the Pentagon.
Yes, sir. So on a day like today, I'm doing both roles.
Yeah.
Today I'm standing by ready to support the state of Texas and our Commander-in-Chief, Governor Abbott. I'm also going to Washington, D.C. to support reforms for the military and to support our National Guard troops to get funding for them.
You know, I think the general public just believes that you put on a uniform and you just go and you conduct military operations. But a big part of your job is trying to get funding for that from not only the state of Texas but from the federal government.
Yes, sir. We have to state our case like everybody does, really.
Yeah.
We think national defense and state defense are the most important aspect of our lives.
And you know what? I tell people all the time when I go and do my town hall meetings or go to civic clubs or any chamber of commerce, always the first question, certainly the last 2 or 3 years, has been about border security. It's been about are we taking care of our national defense? And so it's very much on the mind of all of the people of Texas because they are concerned about that. And you know, you just have to pick up a newspaper and you read about things that are happening all over. And they don't realize that there's real people right here in Texas that are having to make a lot of those decisions to protect us.
Yes, sir. It doesn't come free. You know,
No.
It costs the state of Texas money to support us. It costs us a bit because our families support us also. So whether we're serving in Texas or serving in Afghanistan, the family's behind us. But then we come to y'all and ask for help so that, you know, to attract this fine group of people.
Well, you know, what's interesting is that it does take a lot of funding, and yet in the overall $100 billion budget of the state of Texas, you're a very small part of it. And a big part of that funding does come from the federal government. And I know my colleagues often they look at what the federal government's doing, and they don't realize that you can't cross over those funds, that the state has to step up and take care of the obligations that we have, and it is an expensive operation.
Yes, sir. We're trying to improve our facilities.
Yes.
You know, how do you attract talented people when your facility doesn't look very good?
Right.
Or it's not up to code. They're not up to code, but they're not up to the 21st century.
Now, you office out at Camp Mabry right here in Austin, and I know this from a personal standpoint. As I drive down Mopac and I look over there at Camp Mabry, you've made a significant difference. I'm really, it makes me proud of the things that we're doing there to let the public know that we are alive and well, and we're working for the public. And I think that's a big effort, and I appreciate it. I would kind of like to go into more of the details of some of the things specifically you do from a humanitarian standpoint. I know we do this Operation Lone Star, and you've also allowed us to do something over in East Texas in my district.
Sure.
Why don't you expand on that a little bit for us?
Operation Lone Star is our yearly exercise where we practice disaster management. Currently, we're planning on doing it in the June-July timeframe down in the valley, and I think a month or two later up in your district. We go down there and touch base with the district managers, the county judges, the disaster district coordinators, all the local officials, so that if a hurricane was to come tomorrow or this summer, it's not the first time that we've met them. Right. They know us, we know them. They trust us, we trust them. And then we also have some benefits there. The Health and Human Services Commission comes down with doctors and nurses, and they take a look at the personnel, or the valley citizens, those that need a little bit of help. We go up to Van and do the same thing, but it allows us to meet our counterparts that we may meet in a disaster. We hope we never meet.
Well, and it's so important. I think a lot of folks don't realize that. I know when the Guard became more involved was during Hurricane Katrina and Rita. Prior to that, they were kind of the State Guard was sort of a lesser-known group, and I think the governor looked around and realized that our National Guard was fighting a war in the Middle East, and I know he made a comment to me. He said, "I don't want what happened in other states to happen in Texas," and we all stepped up, and tremendous amount of training. But there in East Texas, where we have those clinics, I mean, we take over a public school and turn it into a medical clinic, and people are getting an opportunity to have medical treatment that they've never ever had in many cases. I know I got the idea when I went down to Lone Star and I saw what was happening down there, and I think you've had 10 to 12,000 people that come during that 1 week.
Yes,
is that right?
Yes, sir.
And in East Texas, I know from a very selfish standpoint, I told folks, I said, you know, we have just as many underprivileged people in our part of the country, and that's been so successful. I'd like to see us do something there, and you kindly were on our team and helped us do that, and I get compliments every day about what the military forces does up there, because what we do is we bring in all kinds of volunteers. It's not an item that we have to budget big dollars for, because we use the military forces and their medical groups and the local hospitals and everything. And that's kind of what you've done in the valley too.
Yes, sir.
What are some of the other missions that you have down there? You know, I don't want to go into all about what's happening on the border right now, but I would like for you to just kind of mention a little bit of what your role is.
Okay. Well, we're leveraging the Air and Army National Guard, largely the Army, but we also have the State Guard in there. They're in our Joint Operation Information Centers under the exercise called Border Star.
And they're all along the border, aren't they?
All along the border, and they've been there for a long time.
Yeah.
So these folks volunteered, but you can't volunteer for a year and not get paid. So they do get paid. They're not getting paid a whole lot of money, but they're getting paid.
A lot of people
which is
are
unusual
concerned
for the State Guard.
A lot of people are concerned that when we're National Guards there, that what is their role? And I always tell them, the governor said they were a force multiplier, and it is not a new role, but it's one that in domestic operations they have done that. So we're not doing something new or different. It's just simply that. It's a force multiplier.
Yes, sir. And it's a great deterrent.
Yeah.
When you see somebody looking at you through optics and they're in uniform, and you know that's the National Guard of Texas.
Yes.
you're going to think twice about coming across the border.
That's exactly right. One of the things that I think the public doesn't know either is that we've had other states that have brought some of their folks down here to assist and volunteer.
Yes, sir. And we've had offers from other states
Yeah.
to come down and be on state active duty with us. So
Yeah.
there's a large amount of support for what Texas is doing.
I know the last time I was down there, the helicopters that we were flying in, the pilots were from Nebraska, and their comments to me was, you know, this gives us an opportunity to do something that is very effective, not just a training exercise.
Yes, sir. So they actually get to practice their mission, and that is to go out and detect. And,
Well,
they do this very effectively. We've got 15 states participating with us on the border right now.
and I think that's really important for the public to know. I just want to tell you once again how much I appreciate you taking the time out, because I know how busy you are right now. It's not like you just come in and sit down. You've got something to do all over the United States, plus your responsibilities on foreign soil. And we are honored that you would take the time to do that. And I want to tell you once again, we're privileged to have you serve the state of Texas.
Thank you, sir.
God
Thank
bless
you for
you,
your
and thank
time.
you very much.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.